Hello. My name is Jackie Wilhelm, and I'm the Director of Children's Ministry at Crossroads Christian Church in St. Matthews. You know, when life feels uncertain, I am so grateful that I can trust God no matter what. Even when we can't fully see God's plan, we can trust that God is always for us. Listen to what the Apostle Paul wrote about Jesus in his letter to the Colossians. Before anything was created, he was already there. He holds everything together. You know, Paul here, he didn't always feel that way about Jesus. Let's find out how Paul's faith grew by starting in chapter 9 of the book of Acts. When Paul was a young man, they called him Saul, and Saul was sent to Jerusalem to study with a famous rabbi. Saul believed that he was closer to God because of how closely he followed God's rules. He carefully studied God's law. He prayed 3 times a day.
Dear God, thank you for making me so good at following your laws.
Like other religious leaders in Jerusalem, Saul was caught off guard by Jesus. Saul and the other leaders were very upset that Jesus claimed to be God's son. Jesus had died on the cross, but his followers said that he had returned to life, and they had actually seen him alive. The number of Jesus' followers began to grow. The religious leaders did everything they could think to do to squash the movement. They even arrested one of the leaders named Stephen. Saul stood by and held the coats of the men who threw stones at Stephen. Saul became known for hunting down people who believed in Jesus. When he discovered that some Jews in the city of Damascus were following Jesus, he went to the high priest Caiaphas. Saul asked Caiaphas for letters to the synagogues in Damascus to give him permission to arrest the believers and take them back to Jerusalem. Saul traveled with a group of men to arrest the believers they found. After days on the road, they were close to Damascus. As they neared the city, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around Saul. He fell to the ground. Saul heard a voice from heaven speak to him. Listen to what the voice said. Saul, Saul, why are you opposing me?
Who are you, Lord?
Saul asked. I am Jesus, he replied. I am the one you are opposing. Now get up and go into the city. There you will be told what you must do. The men traveling with Saul stood there, amazed. They couldn't even speak. Saul got up, and he couldn't see. The other men led Saul by the hand into Damascus. Saul stayed there at the home of a man named Judas on Straight Street. For 3 days Saul was blind. He didn't eat or drink anything. Saul thought he knew the truth, but then he came face to face with Jesus, a man he thought was dead, and it turns out he was very much alive. Even though Saul couldn't see, it was like he actually could see everything about Jesus in a whole new way. Here's why. Knowing Jesus changes the way you see everything. God opened Saul's eyes in a pretty dramatic way. You know, he'd spent his whole life up until that point trying to stop the news about Jesus from spreading. But suddenly, he could see the truth about Jesus, that Jesus really is God's son. God opens our eyes too, in lots of different ways, and helps us look at our lives from God's point of view. You know, once you see things from God's perspective, maybe that thing that feels like it's going bad right now, maybe you start to see that it could be used for good later. Or maybe when you're at the park on a beautiful sunny day, you really start to feel closer to God because of all the beautiful things all around you. Or maybe there's a great song that you hear for the first time and you start to learn things about Jesus that, well, you never knew before. Or maybe you've got a friend who shows you God's love all the time. However you get to know more about Jesus, it's always worth it.
Saul's faith certainly grew. And you know what? For the next few weeks, we're going to learn all about how our faith can grow too. What is faith? Well, according to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, faith is being sure of what you hope for. It is being sure of what you do not see. I can't wait to learn more about this with you. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.